Hello and welcome to this YouTube video. Just before I begin, can I say that in order to shorten the presentation, I've condensed the content as much as possible. However, the narration does follow the text pretty closely, so hope you can follow it. If you do miss anything, you might want to go back and have another look. It's important you understand. So back to the question, science or religion? It's just 3 words, but together they ask a very big question. Which one is more able to explain existence? It's a question which lays at the heart of one of today's most important debates. But does it have to be one or the other? I can't answer the question, but in this presentation I'm going to introduce you to some new evidence which may change the way you think about it. So I don't intend to offer any conclusions. I think it's better the facts speak for themselves. I'll leave it for you to question their significance and decide their meaning. My painting on the left here is an Annunciation picture, a modern version of a Fra Angelico work. It is concerned with some of the geometry I'll talk about a little later. Hello, my name is Robert Pigott, and I want to tell you about my work as an artist, which explores the relationship between science and religion. By the way, if you want more information about my work, please go to my website at robertpigott.com. Now, I firmly believe the artist has a role to play in the advancement of knowledge, especially in the questions raised here, which probe the limits of our understanding. The following findings suggest that science and religion may not be as far apart as we believe. In fact, the evidence suggests not only a remarkable link between them, but also the hint of an interdependent relationship. I will come to the evidence of a link in a few moments, but first I think I ought to tell you a little bit more background. It was my rejection of traditional religion which allowed me to seek my own way towards a personal, religious enlightenment, independent and free from the history of traditional faiths. As an artist, I recognize the potential of art as a guide to help me on my journey to enlightenment. So I use the process of painting as a kind of scientific instrument, a search tool to discover more about the abstract spiritual and metaphysical world. The painting on the left, called an anchor, begins that journey. An anchor, by the way, is an ancient Greek word which referred to a hidden force beyond the power of the gods. In this painting, an anchor is a kind of engine, a creation machine, which lies outside of the physical universe. The search for truth in the form of a spiritual quest is a common theme in many painters' work, from Fra Angelico to Van Gogh to Kandinsky, although it is not always quite so apparent. So my approach to enlightenment through art was not a new idea. What was new was my deliberate use of art as a kind of telescope to probe the abstract space and project the captured images onto the canvas. The difficulty arises in the extraction of meaning from the interrogation of one's own work. But it is probably no less difficult, for example, than the scientist's task in the interpretation of images from Mars. In the Horn of Holes picture, another painting of a creation engine, a number generator. Maybe we can compare it with the machine which randomly chooses the winning lottery numbers. Actually, I'm not joking. It's a serious thought. In fact, maybe we are all winners because we find ourselves in the universe which matched all the numbers. It's a good job we didn't lose the lottery ticket, or we might not be here. Scientists have made enormous progress in our understanding of how the world works, but in doing so they have discovered something almost more remarkable, the uncanny power of mathematics to describe these physical processes with great accuracy. A mathematical order is so often found at the heart of these processes, it seems almost as if the physical world had no choice but to follow a mathematical blueprint. In this picture called Piosphere, the chained elements suggest a link between the metaphysical and physical worlds. It may be that the mathematical description of our universe may also apply to and include the abstract spiritual world. So could the painting's suggestion of a link be correct? Is there a relationship between religion and mathematics? And if correct, is there evidence or some sign to be found to support the idea? The Earth seemed a good starting place to look, perhaps the only place, for evidence for such a link. After all, the geometry of a rotating sphere inhabited by an intelligent race offered an ideal opportunity to display a sign pointing to a greater truth. As I have said, I was not attached to any religion, but in a Christian society it was only natural for me to look for evidence first within the context of the Christian faith. In 1994, I discovered a remarkable fact which supported the concept of a mathematical link between the physical world and the abstract spiritual world. Unfortunately, we have to do a little geometry to understand the significance of the find. As you know, pi, approximately 3.14, is one of nature's most important numbers, a constant which in many ways defines the physical world in which we find ourselves. Pi defines the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. So in the diagram, if the diameter EQ equals 1 meter, then the circumference of the circle will be 3.14 meters. So how does the mathematics of pi link with the religion of Christianity? For many, the story of Christianity begins in Nazareth with the Annunciation by the angel Gabriel, who revealed to Mary that she was to become the mother of Jesus. But why Nazareth? Well, it turns out that Nazareth is located on a very special line of latitude, 32.7 degrees north. This line of latitude is determined by the angle ZOQ, which falls at 32.7 degrees with respect to the equator, line EQ in the diagram. As you can see here, Nazareth sits on the line NAZ, which represents the line of latitude 32.7 degrees, or as I call it in the title of my book, the Nazareth parallel. So what's so special about the Nazareth parallel? Well, let's see how the parallel divides the circle. How do we do this? Well, it's quite easy. A simple calculation shows that angle NOZ equals 114.6 degrees, because angle NOZ equals 180 degrees minus twice 32.7 degrees. That's 180 minus 65.4. Now if we divide the 360 degrees of the circle by 114.6 degrees, we find the answer is pi, 3.14. Therefore, the Nazareth parallel defines pi because the length of the circumference divided by the length of the smaller arc NZ equals 3.14. In other words, the length of the smaller arc NZ is the same as the diameter EQ, which is quite amazing. So why does the beginning of Christianity, one of the world's great religions, have its origin on a line of latitude which defines pi, one of nature's most significant mathematical constants? Is it just coincidence? And if it is, it has to be emphasized it is a very accurate coincidence, as we'll see in a few moments. Or was the location of Nazareth planned in advance, knowing that intelligent beings, that's you and me, would come along to understand its significance? And if true, does it make mankind all the more special? Does this fact introduce science into the world of religion and God? So to test my findings, in 2008 I made a special trip to Nazareth with a Garmin GPS tracker to confirm the location of the Nazareth parallel on the actual ground. In Nazareth, the Church of the Basilica, in the centre of the photograph, marks the traditional site of the Annunciation. So this is a view of the Basilica from our hotel, incidentally called the San Gabriel. According to the GPS, the actual parallel crosses along the dotted line just north of the church. So here we are in the streets of Nazareth. Checking the GPS as we walk away from the Basilica, we cross the actual parallel some 300 meters to the north. This is the approximate point in Al-Bishara Street where the parallel crosses Nazareth. True, it is some way from the traditional site of the Annunciation, but it is along the route Mary would have walked to the well. Of course, we may never know all the facts, but it is possible Mary lived close to the parallel and perhaps crossed over it every day to fetch water from the well. Just opposite the hardware shop of the previous slide was a high corrugated fence. Looking over the fence along the line of the Nazareth parallel, we found a deserted and overgrown building site, partly filled with rubbish. It was a disappointing scene, and a scene far removed from those depicted in numerous Annunciation paintings. I had anticipated something more, but what did I expect? The only positive thing about the site was a sense of preservation from new building, but for how long? There's one other Nazareth coincidence we ought to mention. Remember, my search for religious truth through mathematics had brought me to Nazareth, returning me with uncanny accuracy to the faith I had rejected. The 3.14 of pi had delivered me back to the very origin of Christianity. Was pi trying to tell me something? You can imagine my reaction when, at the San Gabriel, a hotel which had not been booked by me, I was handed by the receptionist the key to room number 314. That's level 3, room 14. I felt faint and had to sit down. Was it confirmation of the truth? To me, it was as if I had been given the key to open the door to all knowledge. Okay, I want to continue now and show evidence of a mathematical connection with another religion, this time in an Islamic context. Through his Annunciation to Mary and his revelation of the Quran to Muhammad, the angel Gabriel, as the messenger of God, provides a common link between Christianity and Islam. And mathematics and geometry is very much part of Islam. The infinite nature of God is visually and conceptually expressed in Islamic art and architecture through its geometric designs and associated patterns. In the picture on the left, Gabriel delivers the sacred geometry to Muhammad. To explain the evidence, I'm afraid we need to do a little more geometry. But first I want to introduce you to another important number, phi, approximately 1.618. You may have heard of it as the ratio which defines the golden section or golden mean. In fact, it is a ratio frequently found in nature and can be seen in the spiral formation of galaxies, in the proportions of the human body, and as seen here, in the arrangement of seeds in the head of a sunflower. In fact, it is so frequently found in nature, it is sometimes referred to as the divine ratio, with the implication that it was used by God to construct the universe. And the divine ratio may have some justification for its name, if we consider the evidence revealed here. It occurs in a very similar way to the revelation of pi in the Nazareth parallel. Gabriel obviously knew his geometry. Mecca is the holiest city of Islam, the birthplace of Muhammad. It lies on a line of latitude, line MEC in the diagram, at 21.25 degrees north. If we do the maths, we can show that angle MOC equals 137.5 degrees. That's 180 degrees minus twice 21.25 degrees, 42.5 degrees. Now 137.5 degrees is a remarkable number, especially remarkable in the context of Islam's expression of geometric decoration and pattern. So why is 137.5 degrees so remarkable? Well, if we do the maths again, we find a relationship between this angle and the 1.618 of the divine ratio. If we subtract 137.5 degrees from 360 degrees, it produces 222.5 degrees. And dividing 360 by 222.5 produces 1.618. In other words, the Mecca parallel divides the circumference of the Earth in the divine ratio. The ratio of the length of the smaller arc MC, defined by the Mecca latitude, to the length of the greater arc MC is 1.618, a fact which can only confirm the significance of Mecca within Islam. Quite remarkable. So does Gabriel's choice of Mecca and Nazareth have special significance, or is it just coincidence? Are these religions united through the common denominator of mathematics and geometry? My art began when I rejected all beliefs and set out, with an open mind, to discover independently a religion of my own. The most important point to remember is the way during my search for God, how I was delivered back to traditional faiths. It was as if mathematics had shown me the way. Quite incredible. Of course there are other faiths, but the remarkable evidence revealed here points to a single source for all religions. I suggest the more we encounter and comprehend such a source, the more we will stand in awe of nature, just as we do today as we confront the mystery and beauty of existence. Is God, then, the manifestation of some supernatural mathematical law? Can science one day explain God in mathematical terms? Could God be the key to the grand unifying theory of physics? I will leave you to ponder the questions.